Linda Irvine is the Irish Language Development Officer in East Belfast. She's married to Brian Irvine, the ex-loyalist PUP leader, who is the brother of David Irvine. Linda, we met a bit earlier this year, or the end of last year, and I was really struck by the work that you're doing. But before we get on to that, give me a little bit of a sense of what it was like growing up in Belfast during the early part of the Troubles.
Well, I was about 7 when the Troubles started, and so I don't have a lot of memories sort of pre-Troubles. My grandmother, I was from the Newton Arch Road, my nanny lived in Thistle Street, which is on the interface here. It's a wee small street of 2 up, 2 down, and whenever the Troubles started, that area just seemed to erupt. I remember as a child people being, well, slain, who, looking back now, obviously they were Catholic people. I didn't understand that at the time. So all of a sudden there were a lot of empty houses, which became our playground. So, we seen it in a childish way. I remember rioting at night. We used to stay with my nanny every weekend, and it was a wee kitchen house. And I remember rioting in the area, and I remember one particular night they were rioting in the street, and it was a wee tiny street, and being very frightened. My nanny and Granda, who they had lived through the war and everything, very calm, turned the lights off and had lit the candles, and they sat and played cards with us, supposed to distract us as children. But I remember hearing the shouting and the gunfire and things outside, and I think I was just so afraid they would come into the house. And where we slept in the back room, I remember my granda putting up mesh on the back because there'd have been snipers shooting, and even as a child understanding that wouldn't have stopped the bullets. Another night there was a nail bomb in an entry just behind us, and the next day we went to see it, and it hadn't really done that much damage. It had knocked a lot of bricks off, but that night, it was like the world had exploded. And after that I used to have trouble sleeping, and my nanny used to give me Valium crushed on a spoon to help me to sleep, because I used to take, I used to hyperventilate. So it was things like that you couldn't articulate. It was just part of normal life, like going out and the next day after rioting, gas canisters in the street and, poking at them, as you do as a child. But I suppose somewhere there was an awareness that this was wrong, it wasn't normal, but you couldn't talk to anybody about it, or you couldn't express those fears, So I suppose everything changed, and but you didn't remember what it was like before. I remember later on, maybe I was about 11 or something, going over to England on a holiday. We had an uncle that lived over there, and as soon as we went into the shop, of course, we put our hands up to be searched, and my mummy hit me, you don't do that here, you don't do that, and people looking at you. But for us that was, where you went, you got searched, so that was the norm. And I suppose that's